An agnostic sex podcaster and a rabbi walk into a party. Wait, have you heard this one before? Kristen Bell and Adam Brody return for season 2 of Nobody Wants This. Despite the title, at the end of season 1, I really wanted this. So how does this current entry work out? Joanne and Noah are back and fully committed to merging their lives and loved ones together. But their differences still exist and can't be ignored. The challenge now is not just falling in love against all odds, but staying together in spite of them. This season is once again 10 30-ish minute episodes, so it's a pretty quick binge, all things considered. We continue to follow the ups and downs of the complicated dating relationship of Bell's Joanne and Brody's Noah as they both try to find a comfortable middle ground in the midst of their drastically different religious beliefs. Now again, like in the first season, the leads, they are surrounded by a dynamic and funny cast that works to contrast unhealthy and healthy relationship habits while also creating some softness and depth for Joanne and Noah. Unlike last season, though, this one homes in more closely to the surrounding relational dramas, giving us more detail and depth, as well as the time just with them. Sasha and Esther, Morgan and a potential beau, Ilan and Bina, even Lynn and Henry. I loved seeing all of the different facets of all of the couplings because they provide so much variance, both in positive and negative ways, to allow room for all sorts of relational ideals. So much of the drama that Joanne and Noah's relationship encompassed in the first season, it feels amplified now. Because they're spending more time together, the potential for both highs and lows, it's much greater too. And when there's conflict, it can be biting, devastating, and just plain sad to watch. And not to mention the discomfort I had because I'd been rooting for them to succeed as a couple all through season 1. And it's not like that desire went away for season 2. I mean, anytime it felt, though, that they were going to go sideways and maybe not end up together, I'd squirm in my seat, just anxious with fingers crossed that they were going to figure it out. Seriously, how silly is that? I mean, I'm super invested in a dramatized relationship, but I'd also think that that speaks to how relatable the portrayals are. Neither Noah nor Joanne is anywhere close to perfect, but they strive for that perfect connection, to not repeat past mistakes within this new love. And what also helps to make the show so endearing and cute, aside from the mainly just likable characters, is the amount of witty and quick humor that the writing contains. The quips are smart, sometimes a little cheesy, but still full of sarcasm, charm, and cleverness. The cast, they are also so on point with their timing too. So when any of them are called on to be the punchline deliverer, they nail it, giving just the right amount of pause before finishing exactly when it's needed. And I think one of the understated characters who gets to use dry wit is Tova Feldscha's Bina. She is tough and cranky, very protective, also quite judgy, but the sly cuts that she gives, they are hilarious and skillfully timed. Timothy Simons also shines with his comedy, and it's typically even more evident when he's riffing with either Jackie Tone or Justine Loop. The triad dynamic, it is awkward already, so to have 2 or 3 of them all bantering back and forth, it is one of those uncomfortably amusing sequences that you'd not want to be part of, but most certainly want to be near, so that you could watch and overhear what's being tossed back and forth. Now, with the additional focus on the side relationships, there also comes way more drama for the show. Kind of like with many seconds in a production, whether that be seasons or sequels, the storylines, they tend to go a bit darker and more tense. Not ominous necessarily, just a little more serious or weighty. And the same goes here. The storytelling feels a little more dour with potentially dreadful consequences just hanging over our heads. And I wouldn't call this an angry season, or even sad necessarily. But despite there being a ton of laughs and giggles, this also had a heavy overtone. And that made me squirm, like I said before. But it also made me anxious for how the show was going to resolve. Conflict is a major theme within the season, as are truths and facing realities. And the dialogue doesn't shy away from these, but handles them in surprisingly useful ways. I mean, yeah, there is a lot of entertainment value within the story, but if you were to stop down and just focus on how some of the characters interact, they provide a lot of wisdom and good relational advice. It's just wrapped up in a silly or maybe quirky delivery. From a pacing perspective, the show does struggle a bit in sticking with a consistent timeline. I never knew if a day had passed between episodes or if it had been several weeks. And ultimately, I'm not really sure that it hugely matters, but I kind of want to know where we are in time and space so that I feel more connected within the story. And then also, despite my absolutely loving the realism and the relatability of Joanne and Noah's relationship, also along with the humor and their adorable dynamic that they share, the ups and downs felt formulaic. Like I could never get too comfortable when their day or week was going great. I just knew that some conflict would arise, big or small, and then that would create mainly blown out of proportion drama, which then leads to some wonderfully wise conversations, and then back to them being all lovey-dovey and full of understanding. And it's not the content that was bothersome or the resolutions. It was the predictability of the trajectories. I'd really love it for the show to just upend my expectations and then have them be entirely happy and stable for 2 to 3 episodes in a row before then introducing some complexity that needs to be addressed. I mean, if this were a week-to-week show, yeah, the formula would make more sense because each episode would require more of that type of arc. But this show's meant for binging. I mean, all episodes drop at once, and they're short enough to not even kill your whole day watching. So in this instance, we don't need the formula, Netflix. I mean, come on, if you're listening, break that formula. Keep us guessing in plot progression so that things don't become stale or predictable. Okay, I think I got that a bit out of my system. I'm not sure if the show is going to continue past this season. Honestly, I'm okay if it ends here. While many of the other side relationships are still in progress, some in flux, others in just absolute chaos, this wasn't their show. This was always about Joanne and Noah. And I'm not saying how this ends, but we do get a resolution that's in line with how the series has been told so far. There's a positivity to outcomes, and a conclusion that I could live with. Does it wrap up every single area all nice and tidily? No, but we get closure in a satisfying way. Really, I'm not sure if I'd want the show to continue further. I've absolutely loved the characters and the humor, but to go out when things can be resolved in a pleasing way instead of the show just kind of slowly deteriorating because the writing is basically nowhere to go anymore, I'd much rather have it end strongly. Overall, Season 2 of Nobody Wants This maintains the same hopeful and earnest romance as Season 1, just this time with more added family drama and additional complexities to keep the relationships on their toes. The predictability of episode trajectories began to feel formulaic and less original, but the skillful wit, comedic timing, and insightful writing allow the cast to create lovable and amusing characters that feel close enough to be real life, to be endearing, and outrageous enough to be consistently entertaining. Kristen Bell and Adam Brody share amazing chemistry, crafting a captivatingly charming couple who shine most through their relatable messiness and desire for the best. Despite loving my time with the characters, I won't be sad if this ends here. It ends with passion and resolve, creating space for the unseen future. There's sex, no nudity, a ton of profanity, and no violence. I give Season 2 of Nobody Wants This 4 out of 5 couches. So are there other rom-com series that you get drawn into? And it's okay if they're not even great. I love Virgin River, and that is just soapy schmaltz. Let me know what shows you watch, though, in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.